Yeah.
Stand by.
I guess I should be seated for this. Wow. So, this is good.
I just wanted to spread out the fumbling with paper later. Oh, we'll call the, what is it, March 10th meeting of the Market Planning Commission to order. Roll call, please.
Here.
Here.
Here. I have no announcements. Anybody else? Seeing none. Citizens' time. We have no citizens. Minutes. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve the meeting minutes from February 20th.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. ARB report?
Nothing of note with the ARB.
Council?
We have a meeting tomorrow night.
Okay. Town plan?
I received the sheets rebuild plans. They'll be on 30-day review. That involves a special use permit for the service station. They're also asking for a zoning text amendment to allow for signage for the project. For instance, the logo we have on the canopy, the signage that they have on the fuel stations, those are not accommodated in our ordinance. So they're proposing to add an additional sign standard in our industrial district signage to allow the proposal to go forward. So once we get to the staff review, that should come to you for a public hearing, both for the ZTA and for the special use permit, and probably
Is there similar language for that in Prince William and or Loudoun?
that's what they're. It's
Forth?
It's Walsh Colucci,
Okay.
and so they're
Who's representing them?
I just forgot DuPont. Duvon.
Jay Devon?
Jay Devon. Sullivan's. So also, I did reject the Chick-fil-A plan as not being complete. There were some quality control issues. They're getting their stuff together and should be resubmitting soon. That will also require a zoning text amendment to remove the 6 minimum or 6 maximum number of stacking spaces in the drive-through.
Can you do me a favor when you're reviewing them next time through? As I recall, with the original approval of that site plan, there was a limitation on drive-throughs that was proffered.
Okay.
And just need to make sure that they comport, because I know it got switched around with CVS, and I don't know. It's not that I don't know. I have a sneaky suspicion what it says. I'm not sure they're going to like it, but
Well, as far back as I can remember, that vacant pad site's always been referred to as a drive-through site. So,
but there were
It
restaurant
wasn't a rezoning. Was it a self-imposed restriction? Okay.
It was a profit restriction, and there was a zoning text amendment that accompanied it to allow for a drive-through. So they may have to do a proper amendment. It's going to take a proper analysis on the original site plan.
Okay, because I remember there was, I would have called it spot zoning just for CVS drive-throughs.
And there was a previous zoning restriction on that parcel for a drive-through that got changed to accommodate CVS because it was not a restaurant.
Correct, and I'll go through, I'll talk about it offline about this. I went through, there's interesting conflicting standards. If you're in the I-1 district, you can't have another fast food restaurant within 600
number of
feet.
linear feet, yeah.
So this is an I-1, this is B1 across the street, which kind of defeats the purpose of it. So anyway, I appreciate you bringing that to my attention. I'll look at that. We are waiting on a second submission of the Robinson's Paradise rezoning. That's the one just north of town. I know Holly's.
is that still the same plan that we sat down with them
Correct.
months and months ago?
Any word on VDOT as to their plans out there?
So VDOT, I'll talk to Holly. I think they're still on track. I think the interchange is delayed a little bit, but the widening is still on track. With the streetscape, Councilwoman Bear was at the council meeting when Holly explained it, but they're widening the south side or the eastbound lanes of Washington Street to allow for a lane shift. And they're going to do the whole west or westbound side at once. They're going to put up Jersey barriers or some sort of barrier to be able to do the curb, gutter, do all that stuff. And then at the end of the project, they'll shift lanes back over. So they're not building the sidewalk on the eastbound side right now. I did get a call from the ice rink. They're wishing to amend their plans again. You would approve the preliminary plan for their secondary sheet of ice they're asking to come in and modify that plan when it goes on the way to final site plan.
We did put restrictions in our motion to our recommendation that things from, rink number 1 were supposed to be completed prior to this. Have they made any headway on that?
The trailer is still out there. All the other elements have been done, the parking lot landscaping, the surfacing, but they have not removed the office trailer. With the second sheet of ice, that office trailer will go away. So, and there's also the issue of screening the chiller outside. They're having to screen that chiller as well.
Well, because I think in our recommendation to council, it was, we listed out, 4 or 5 different things that had to be taken care of.
We did, and I'll go back and look at that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think the assumption was that we would also look at that on the way to the final site plan. I did speak with Walt Peter. He's the gentleman that's putting the contract purchase on the Payne, or did put the contract purchase on the Payne Lane property. They were out there today surveying, so I'm hopeful that his plan will continue to go forward. He wants to bring plans, I think, to the council or to the commission probably in May, and expects to try to move forward either late fall or early spring to start moving on that. Also had a meeting with Haymarket Self-Storage. They're submitting their site plans hopefully within the next few weeks. This is for the outdoor storage that they're doing out there behind the food line. That's pretty much it. We'll go through the 1 mile notices and we'll talk about the traffic circle that we have on the east end of town. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Comp plan.
I did meet with staff. We put together an outline of all the chapters. I wanted to share with you as kind of a way to keep track. What I'm handing you is basically all the chapters listed. We have folks working on the tables and also updating the maps, the figures, so I'll pass that out to you so you'll be able to keep track. What I wanted to focus on tonight, but not necessarily go through it, is Plan Part 2 and 3, which is our community goals and objectives and our plan implementation. The goals and objectives, many of them are outdated in terms of public facilities. We're still showing the Hanover properties as our town hall center. So what I'd like to do is hand this out to the commission tonight, overview it briefly, and then next month we can go over it in detail. So Part 2, community goals and objectives, is what I refer to. You'll see immediately with public facilities, those that are outdated. So. In the next sheet, and this is what's going to lead us into the CIP discussion, it's Plan 3, which talks about your Part 3, plan and implementation, talks about fiscal policy, talks about our public facilities plan, also has our land use map with which we're going to go over with you tonight. So, first, Mr. Chairman, going through the Part 2, as you'll see, for instance, in public facilities, the first goal under objectives, develop Hanover property in the Haymarket Government Center. It's those type of quality control things that we'll need to go through. Transportation will have to be updated to talk about what we're doing right now with the road improvements around us and also what we're doing within town. So at your discretion between now and next month, if you wouldn't mind going through those, there's some obvious ones we'll have to.
At this point in time, is the charrette really valid anymore? It does mention of it.
I think at this point you do it as only historical.
It's just background.
Which is interesting, is that this long list that you see. The meat and potatoes are these last 2 sections. What I'll probably do is put the charrette back up as general background. We adopted these plans in these years. We had charrettes in these years, and just let it be. So, okay. Part 3 is what I'm going to jump into tonight. Specifically, the land use plan. The land use plan sets out our key planning areas, which are described in the subsequent pages. Land use plan starts on 84. If you go to page 86, what it outlines is our major planning areas. We have our low and moderate density residential categories. We have our transitional commercial, our planned interchange. Transitional commercial is more toward our core. Planned interchange is out by the interchange. Neighborhood town center is the area that we're in now. And then it goes into some other detail. But key tonight, what's in front of you is page 88, which is your land use map. Yep, there's a large one in front of you. That does not showcase west being incorporated all into the town. But kind of moving east to west, I think it pretty much stays the same. What I want to look at is, do we want to keep pace west, the fields as designated public, and just keep the building commercial? There's types of things to think about. There is the proffer on the books that the fields be open for 10 years. So that'll well exceed our...
From a practical standpoint, does it make sense to try and split the parcel, or does it just make sense to leave it as public use with the...
Well, no, we rezoned it.
We rezoned it to B1, so it's B1 now. But
I would say maybe just a different color shading on it with a notation that it's for that use. But, I mean, I can't see, without...
I mean, do we want to break the fields out and leave them in pink, or...
That's what I was thinking.
It's
Just
a piece of property.
Isolated.
And we still don't know. He wants to add 2 more stories to it. What's that going to do to parking? Is that going to encroach on the fields? There's a lot of stuff that we don't know. And trying to call that public space when it's privately owned and controlled by proffer may become...
Well, I mean, and I'm sorry, we just rezoned it. So, we really, that's where maybe, I don't say leave it pink because it's not technically public.
It's not public.
Well, what we can do is...
I mean,
We can change it to something, but it's not public,
put pink stripes through it or something. I mean,
or do a
seriously.
hatched area and have some sort of footnote that says...
Yes.
Yeah.
This is under proffers, which may change at any time. Blah, blah, blah.
It's because it's privately owned property.
Moving east, you'll see the strip between the Hanover properties and Blight.
Why is that still public, Luz?
I think the assumption at the time was we're going to try to acquire it, but I forget the gentleman's name that bought that's is it Mike?
Didn't we approve a...
We approved 5 lots on it.
Yeah. Where does that stand, by the way?
Yeah.
He subdivided it, we addressed each lot, but he hasn't started building yet.
So we need to correct the map in terms of the lots and the color.
Correct. The map, this is an older map, I'm sorry, you'll see the map of the back is actually updated with the 5 lots. And
Yeah,
its
that would be
address.
the darker blue, correct?
Yep, that would be
The
the,
darker blue.
Yeah.
the darker blue,
5 lots in there.
which I'm not sure why all they are darker blue. I just messed with it. The whole Haymarket Baptist property is all zoned transitional commercial, which is by its name supposed to be transitioned from our low-density east to our high-density west. Is it worth keeping the church under that designation, which would allow some commercial uses in residential? That's the zoning district that would apply. Or do we want to...
I thought we did something in our TC language that allowed, to allow churches in that, so it wasn't just in residential,
It
correct?
does. It does.
Then
But just
I
under the
think it is
assumption
TC.
that, eventually, I don't think the church will ever go away, but if it goes away, that would be the underlying land use that would be entitled. The rest...
Given us.
I mean, quite honestly, our TC district does allow for quite a bit of uses. So, I would say leave it in as
I don't have any
TC.
particular issue with it.
So there at a hunting path, we're okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So, is it worth revisiting the south side?
No.
Okay. Dottie Leonard's property is still zoned commercial. We still wish to have it.
Why is it light blue here?
Yeah, it's light blue. It's,
I think it's just consistent with what was around it.
Is it actually zoned commercial?
Yes.
It is.
then why is it?
It is zone B1.
Yeah, because
Then we need to correct the map. Well,
55 was P1.
this is planned land use as opposed to actual, correct? Okay.
In an ideal situation, your planned land use and your zoning district will match.
But we don't. And this,
Some would consider that a spot zoning, but
yeah, I don't I don't think it's worth the trouble to do a planned land use map change to change the plan from residential to commercial, because that just probably sets off a set of circumstances that I really don't want to consider.
Okay. Well, I mean, they're still entitled to do commercial, so
Yeah, so I mean,
So
no harm,
then,
no foul.
everything now on the corner, Madison Shops and the house next to it are both zone B1.
I don't see
Their plans residential, we still keep it that way.
I don't see any reason to switch.
We have, then we jump over to BB&T. Got BB&T and the Verizon behind it plans.
Does Verizon plan to keep that building forever?
I have no idea. I've not heard anything.
I mean, I'd rather, if we're going to make any change, I'd rather switch the Verizon building to blue, but that's just me.
And then next to it, the backside of the, bless you, behind this whole complex, we have, it's a lot where that prefab building's on behind the Masonic Lodge. You know what I'm talking about? Mm-hmm. This is a lot where one parks to go to the 3 Rs. It's planned residential, but zone commercial. I don't know if this is actually split zone now, so that may be something we want to extend neighborhood commercial to. What I'm hoping will happen in the future is this becomes some sort of parking support for all these buildings that are over here. So,
What, 3 or 4 hours?
no. This lot right here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I
I'm saying
got you.
You're talking about 6731 Jefferson Street, right?
That Rambler across.
6731 is residential. Behind it,
I'm really going to ask you to read these numbers.
this map's wrong. So.
Am I missing a line on mine?
This is the older map. So this was zoned.
Okay, so I should have a line right here.
Yeah,
Okay.
because this is kind of parking space now.
Yeah.
This actually was a barn. It's not a prefab, I don't think.
Now, shouldn't this be yellow like the other one, and this is just a blue
That's
on
what
the
I'm asking.
Oh, okay.
Now that that was rezoned, do we want to keep it, do we want to go back to neighborhood residential? To match this. So maybe the one change we want to go through.
Okay.
Yeah, I would
have
change
no
that
issue
back
with
to
it.
that.
Okay, what else we got? Basically the 4 corners of Jefferson and Washington, it's all yellow. We do have details for the home. If you go up Jefferson Street, behind us, we have details for the home zone commercial, but it's planned residential. Do we want to plan
I would
that?
switch that one out,
Switch that one too? Okay.
Yeah,
personally.
Years ago, I mean, it was residential, and then, it became business.
It's never going to revert.
Yeah,
There's no
it's not
sense to
gonna
revert it, so we might as well.
Well, it really protects our corridors, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, that would change to the lighter yellow of the neighborhood town center.
That's what I was thinking. Yes, ma'am. Or TC.
I'd go TC personally.
TC?
It's a little more restrictive, right,
It is to some degree.
in terms of height and mass.
That, and it doesn't have all the same uses as, you can't put a service station.
I would go TC with it.
Okay.
And
Well, wait a minute, neighborhood town center doesn't allow, either, so,
I'm sorry, that was a bad analogy. I'm
Oh, okay.
mixing the zoning ordinance and the planned land use.
okay. Well, then I still think it makes more sense to make that, town
it's
center.
not next to me. One way or the other.
Oh,
Okay.
pick a shade of yellow.
My preference is brown, but I can live with yellow.
Okay.
Brown is planned interchange park.
Beige, or whatever this orange color. I can't see. Why am I reading glasses like that?
So basically all the lots between Washington and Sherwood Forest, you'll see they're in the orange. That's the vacant lots. That's Brian Garcia's house. That's the other folks that are in there. So those, again, would be a combination if developed under the zoning district, commercial and residential. The rest of it, obviously, is the fairgrounds property, plans, interchange park. And one thing that we couldn't figure out is you'll see all below Washington Street, Winterham, Bloom, which are all updated here, by the way. Foster's, the whole Lee Berry Shopping Center complex. what Jennifer was able to track down was there was a time when there was a zoning text amendment that was put together to rezone basically the Leeberry Shopping Center
Yep.
to B2. And that was the time of the fire, I guess, and some other things that had happened, and just it got lost in the shuffle. So,
May have been the ignition source for the fire.
but nonetheless, we may want to see some effort underway to maybe rezone that subsequently.
If that's going to be rezoned, it's going to have to be a rezoning done at the councils.
Oh, exactly. And I think,
I don't think that's going to be a willing property owner's rezoning application.
well, I think the problem is right now is technically none of the retail uses in the shopping center are
It's the
approved.
age-old problem we've had because
Yes.
it was never done properly in
So-
the first place.
Well, what color do we want to change that to?
Well, no, I think we keep it planned interchange park. This is all our auto-oriented uses. I
Yeah.
think the planned land use is fine. I'm just going back to
The underlying
questions.
zoning is a bit of a problem, but,
Yeah. So, okay, so I come out of this, or the changing details for the home, I guess we'll propose either town transitional commercial or neighborhood, town center, and then the backside of the
Mason's property.
Mason's property would be neighborhood town center.
Okay.
And then I will do a blended or some sort of hatching of the Pace West property to
And then to change the villages strip.
Villages strip to be or to moderate. Okay, so next thing I'd like to point you to, and we'll get into Brian's discussion, Mr. Chairman, is on page 95. Is our implementation summary. So, you'll see under the capital improvement program, see on the 1, 2, 3, 4, fourth item down under 3.9 implementation summary. It's a kind of a good segue into what Brian will be going through you tonight. And one of the important thing about the CIP and looking long range is that with the Robinson's Paradise rezoning, we are going to have our proper policies are based in the CIP. So if we want to require proper monies, we need to have a pot with which to store it. So
Don't use the word required.
I'm sorry, our policies which suggest a per unit contribution, and that goes to the bucket, each particular bucket of services that we provide. So, Mr. Chairman, if we could, I guess to sum up the planning commission or the comp plan discussion, next month, if we could come back with some kind of go into detail about the goals and objectives section, also the implementation plans. We'll dive into that. I'll have an updated map for you, and then we'll give you a status on the charts and the tables and other chapters. So,
Is our current CIP online?
I don't know.
I'm not sure. To be honest with you.
So,
I see the budget, but I don't see it.
so, Mr. Chairman, with your permission, we just jump into new business then? We'll jump into the CIP?
Sure. I don't see it. I just apologize, my internet service was out today, so I'm sort of kind of behind the 8 ball here.
If I, just as a starting point, I know this is a different direction and a new, a little bit overwhelming when you first look at it.
It's just a different format. I mean, it's not.
Yeah, a lot of-
We do a CIP every year. I mean, this is just a different format, and it's not that hard to follow. So.
Correct. And most of these projects actually all came from the original CIPs, or at least the two that I could find. Basically, what we're looking at is, I think the big thing is it gets very overwhelming thinking that you're going to try to spend $212,000 in one year. That's not the case at all. These are more just projects that have been identified as a higher priority. But if they're not, it's basically up to a recommendation from you all and really the council to whether or not you want to fund it. I would seriously not suggest that you try to fund any one line item, fully in 1 year. Essentially, what you do is the idea is basically, this is the opportunity for you to essentially, as I would put it, dream big dreams and stuff. When development comes, they need to have something and stuff. And if these are priorities or projects that you all want to get done, it's a good starting point for them to have something to go off of. If there's bigger ticket items that are not in here, we should put them in here. And some of the smaller ticket items, everything, this is a draft, that's all it is. So, with that being said, this simply does not say, what does or does not necessarily need to be funded. It's a plan. It's a recommendation. And so, I'll be happy to answer any questions you all may have with regard to it. But one of the things that also would go along with this, but I don't have it for you, I just wanted to work it with just the table format, is also a narrative that would also be go along with the CIP as well, which kind of describes the various different departments and how these projects are related.
Let's take it from the top and go down, guys. Is that acceptable? Start with the first three. Historic District Highway markers, National Historic Registry markers, and town signage. Anybody?
I was under the impression, because we had town signage on last year's CIP, if I'm not mistaken, because of proffer money we figured we could use for it. So I don't understand why that's pushed back so many years.
Actually, this was, I have to look through our original. I have it here. But we can move that up. That's not an issue. I think.
Do you have copies of last year's CIP there that you could kind of give to all of us so we can...
I thought it was online. I was assuming it was on the calendar.
The only copy I have fresh is the one that has my notes, but
Okay.
That's okay. If I go through my email, I can probably find it.
I can't, the server crashed, remember?
Yeah, why isn't it under budgets and audits? Why isn't it there? It should be. I just don't see it anywhere. Search.
Or did we actually, or did council budget that?
I thought it was budgeted. I can look at this year's
The
budget.
signage, do we actually budget?
I thought we
We either budgeted or it was in the capital improvements because it was proffer money.
proposed amount DEQ expenditure accounts. Maintenance. Right.
Town signage, we actually had 45,000.
Yeah, but I thought it was. I don't see it.
It's the fifth one down. We
No,
were
yeah, I mean,
using, oh.
in the budget.
No, we didn't. It's in the CIP. The Parks and Rec proffer funds. That's what we were looking at using that for. Except the one for the police department doesn't need to be there now. So,
4 entryways. Yeah, it's general.
This is for the
Parks and
gateway
Rec
signs.
proper. I mean,
well, we had, signed for the 4 entryways, so.
I still think it should be general and profit funds. I don't think you should tie it directly to profit funds, quite frankly.
Well, no, that's what we already did last year.
No, but this is where, on this, if I'm reading the schedule right, this is,
Well, according to this, all of this is, proffered funds dependent upon construction. We're just going to have to kind of...
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Just let me explain the table.
Oh, okay, no, I see it.
What-
Never mind.
yeah.
No, for me, the headings, I don't like, they
I
need to
got you.
disappear.
Huh? We can certainly.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
Well, where it just says proffer funds dependent upon construction about
Right.
each and every category, that needs to go away.
Okay. Yeah. Well, basically, what we're trying to show is where you have proper funds already proper. So if there were funds set aside for that, depending on the amount, in theory, that number would be placed in there. But we can certainly tweak the table.
$50,000 for town signage? Really?
Okay, where are you looking at now?
Total project cost, second to last column.
Well, I'm looking still at last year's with the 45 we've already allocated. So,
Inflation, I guess. We read B.
well, except I think it needs to be moved in a year or two, but
No, you can't. Oh, no. You want to move it up to 2014, 2015?
Well, I don't know, we had it on this year's to try to get done in 2013, 2014.
You're not going to have any carryover this year either, are you?
More than likely not. I just put it into next year since it was supposed, it was in this year's budget and just wasn't done.
So you want to move it over a column?
I'm not sure. I think that 45,000 is in the budget under Parks and Recs.
We can find it.
We can check. I don't think it is. I don't see it.
Well, we had funded it this year, so that needs to be put in that category. I'd at least just carry it over 1 year. I wouldn't push it back 2.
Those needs to go
Move
blue.
it over to 2014, 15?
Yep.
We'll switch it to blue.
And you just want that as a full total? Mm-hmm. Okay.
And then check through the budget and stuff that we did last year, because we put everything in the budget last year. We put the entire streetscape in the budget, and we've never done that before. So,
Yeah, that's good. Bear with me, I'm reading slow. Yeah, I don't see it, but
Yeah. All fish houses. Anywhere on the windows.
all right. Next section, let's take these one at a time.
is that a typo with 50,000 from previous year for Town Center Master Plan Engineering? Because last year, we had put in 500,000, but, as the wish list item on the CIP.
Right, but that would be for the actual construction. As far as I knew, we were going to be moving forward with just the design.
No, I'm asking about the 50,000.
The previous year is basically what way the blue is represented. That's what was slated for last year's, but it got taken out. So then I'm moving it over to this year. So it's really just 50,000 total. If you look at the FAR total, the total project costs, you'll see the previous year does not carry.
Caboose is already allocated, correct?
That's correct.
And why do we have it in 2015?
Because it hasn't been done yet.
Oh. So, how far out are you guys from awarding a contract on that? Sherry?
Currently,
It's not even under consideration, is it?
yeah, it's grant. It's funded.
It's grant funded.
Grant funded.
And so right now, I think they've done the architecture, so we should be going out to bid as far as I know.
And our share of the
I
cost
thought we had
is?
already gone out.
It's
to
an
bid.
enhancement grant fund, so it'd be the 80-20 split. So I think they had roughly, I don't think the 42 is,
42 is not
That's the
correct then.
Hold on. Well, it was 80% VDOT, 20% town, so just 42 was the total. Estimated cost on mine last year were just total, so 20% of 42.
So the town contribution would be 20% of 42, not 42.
Yes.
So 42 divided by what, 5?
Well, we've always put the totals in,
Well, not the way you've got it set up this time, the town contribution.
well, that's just where the notation needs to go in, because,
So you need to footnote that 80% of that's going
Yeah.
to be up. Okay.
yep.
As long as that's footnoted appropriately. Landscaping improvements, any issues there, anybody? Hearing none.
where are you? Oh, okay.
Item 2,
Town Museum, all right.
Town Museum. Hullfish House, installation underneath, why wasn't this done at renovation?
We found out that the original, during a freezing water line this year, that under the original portion of the house, there was no insulation installed into it. Now, it's one of those things that all we did was discover it. But what I was going to say is,
We watched him build it.
I'm just holding on to that.
Oh.
Can we move the museum and the caboose to a separate category and not have them under the same general government line item?
sure, I basically put those under anything with dealing with a public facility that
Well-
we had, that we
Okay, let's go back to the Hullfish House. If this is indeed a function of it not being done at the time of the renovation, that's not a CIP issue.
No, that's just
That's a
maintenance
general
and
fund maintenance issue, take it
Yeah.
out, that's good, that doesn't belong in here. The very thing, parking lot improvements. I thought we had,
No, that's also a general maintenance issue, because with the town center master plan and its property we own, and
there's no reason to have it as a separate issue.
I think that's a maintenance issue
Let's
also.
strike that one out.
Can I make a suggestion, maybe these other things are not necessarily public facilities, we can call it a different category?
Well, no, they just need to be budgeted into the operating budget. Those are maintenance issues.
So you're
Those are
saying
not
take those two
capital
out?
improvements.
Okay.
Take
Yes.
those two out and put them in, bring them up as budget items at the budget hearings or the budget meetings. That's something that needs to happen. The whole fish house installation should have been done at the time of the renovation. If nobody caught it until now, that's our bad. But that's not a capital improvement. That's a maintenance issue or fixing what didn't get done when they renovated it.
Not on the original part where you go down the stairwell where the heating and all that, that's insulated, but crawled up over the
Oh, the front. Oh, okay.
front.
The back, you're saying the back side was insulated, not the front side wasn't insulated.
So
When I
still,
walked
the
into
point
that
is-
building during the construction, there were no floorboards at all from the front of the building to the back. So if insulation didn't get installed when they redid the floors, then somebody needs to ask the contractor why it wasn't insulated.
Well, I'm sorry, do you not remember the problems we've had with these two buildings?
Yeah.
Okay, that's not an option.
I know.
So it
I know.
goes into the maintenance.
Yeah, it just doesn't belong.
Yes.
I'm not just saying it doesn't belong as a CIP issue. It's
Already ahead of you, already scratched off.
Okay.
Let's move on.
Okay. Town center renovation, anybody got any issues there?
No, it's just, again, with the ordering of these things, I think that should be kind of listed right after master plan engineering, because it's the same.
Time together.
Yeah, it's the town center master plan and then the construction for the town center, so.
Hanover property master plan, is there one or any thought of one?
No, but there should be. So, I mean,
Yeah, we had
you know, we
building
had
plans
interest
that were
of
drawn,
the
but
Boys and Girls Club going in, and so I think the town should come up with some sort of honest plan for that property. I mean, there's been,
2015, 16 then?
uh,
I don't see it getting done before that.
no, I don't either, so.
Did you say slide over one?
No, I think it's good where it is.
Hanover building improvements food pantry, why?
Yeah, I need a little bit of an explanation on this one.
This is one of those things, once again, it could be slid over. Some of it is maintenance related. But if the town's going to hold on to this building, it's just like the same thing. Whereas insulation really is a maintenance issue, but any kind of improvement you make into the facilities that you all own, ultimately, that would be improvement. It would be an improvement. So like these improvements are, you got some structural issues underneath that we are kind of looking into right now. So we basically want to put it in here because if you have someone who wants to make that improvement.
Again, I think that's going to have to be something that could be budgeted. I thought this was for a specific project, the $25,000 to go in here for, and I hadn't heard anything about a specific project. I've heard about
Right.
the maintenance issue, but the structure of the building, yes, that's the town's responsibility.
Right.
But again, to me, that's maintenance, and I think it's just money we need to put in the budget for next year and have taken care of.
And that's perfectly fine.
And then maybe, rather than calling it, I wouldn't just say food pantry. I would say here, after Carover property master plan,
Yeah.
then it's Carover property,
Maintenance.
Improvements.
improvements and,
I would just leave it here over property improvement.
Exactly. But, no, 25 grand in that one for that year when we're not even doing the master plan until 15, 16. But, we need to make appropriate,
It's an
Budget
ongoing maintenance
requirement,
cost
yes.
that should be reflected in the operations budget, not in the CIP. Unless you're planning on doing a massive renewal.
Right. Or, if you're going to utilize the buildings and
And at this point in time, since I don't think anybody has any thought or concept as to what's going to ultimately happen with both buildings 5 years down the road, having a 5-year plan for a building that may or may not exist at that point in time, at that point in the future, same thing with the police department interior improvements.
Yeah,
Why are
those
we
are-
going to schedule
exactly.
that with no tenant? And if you're going to get a tenant,
No, he's police department interior. You're talking about here, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, that needs to come off too.
And those are fine. It's just
Yeah.
once again, those are public facilities. So it's one of those things if you want to think of it in terms of,
I mean, unless of course there's,
you're making improvements to your capital.
yeah, unless
That's what
there
you're doing.
is a, plan, again, there's
there's a renewal
some
plan,
idea
a
in,
refresh plan, yeah, it's just ongoing maintenance now.
yeah.
That's something they need to budget for. Next line, police car, that is budgeted for. Why is it in CIP?
Because once again, it's capital. That's what we're looking at. All the things, all the patrol cars that you would own, if you have,
It's equipment replacement in a line item. It should be in the budget as that. They've got a plan for that in the budget, I think, don't they? On an ongoing
do.
basis.
Put one in for this year or not.
one of the things that I tried to structure us
Last year's
with
was done out of
is,
Crawford.
one of the things I try to structure us with is a plan so that when you're putting money aside for these capital improvements, it'd be the same thing if you were a homeowner and you knew you had a 30-year roof. You create a sinking fund. And so what we're working on is 5 years increments. And so it's one of those things you don't necessarily have to fund it. So it can continuously roll over. But if you got a patrol car that comes up one year and you've got a developer who is willing to make significant improvements and wants to actually help the jurisdiction, I think it's one of those things that's worth having it in there. It's one of those things, it is a line item budget, and I wouldn't disagree with that, and that's something that you have to do. But if you're also sinking a fund, knowing that way.
Well, how did we get the car last year? Because we put it in the budget and then used the Alexander Keith Crawford money when it came in to pay for the cruiser
You do a
because we did
transfer.
the.
You do
Yeah.
you do a transfer, yeah. I mean,
But if someone's going to proffer it, it would be helpful for it to be in your CIP.
Well, they.
don't have to fund
but then,
You don't have to fund it.
no,
You
but
should
then
have
you're
it
sort of
in.
tying
I
up.
think you
You're
know
tying
where
up your
I'm going with
proper.
that one.
I prefer to leave it. I think it's an ongoing equipment issue. It's like if in any other jurisdiction's budget, you've got equipment replacement, equipment refresh, and that's actually in the budget, not in the CIP. Your wish list of police department toys or cars, it shouldn't come down to waiting for a proffer to get an extra police car. You should have that put into your budget, either as a sinking fund from year to year, or something where you're going to expend X number of dollars in a given year and budget it that way. I'm not big on putting it in as a CIP item because I see it as a necessity, not a capital improvement.
Well, I think the only thing about it is when you typically look at budgets, you are only looking at budgets in one fiscal year. Whereas your CIP is a 5-year plan. So even if you didn't want to necessarily fund a whole one, it might not be a bad idea
If
to
anybody's
say,
looking at the budget,
we're
just a
incrementally
one-year
doing it.
snapshot, they're looking at it wrong.
Yeah, no kidding.
Well, I don't disagree with that, but I'm just saying that
As a practical matter, they should be taking this as a budget consideration. I guess I might have to go to the budget meeting this year.
no, this is fine. This is a draft. This is, you're all making your recommendation to it. So
All right, in-car computers.
you would take all those out. If you're
I
gonna
would take that out, take the in-car cameras
Yeah,
out.
we're going to have to, that's what I need to
You can leave the
discuss with
security
you.
camera system for the PD in, I guess. I don't have an issue with that.
The variable message boards, the scene event lights, those can be, I think
I can
those can
leave
stay
those
on
in.
here.
The trailer.
They wanted one last year, and I think we
Haven't put in this budget request.
I think we took
At
it.
$5,000, what is the what?
Last year, we did leave the surveillance system, the in-car computers, and the in-car cameras. We left those in the CIP.
Did we?
Yeah, we took off the trailer though.
Have we purchased any in-car cameras yet?
I believe they have.
Didn't the chief have one in his pocket?
No,
That's-
they all have.
Yeah. Let's see. Why can't I find anything today? I swear I should have brought my reading glasses. Special events, hold finish. Okay. Yeah, I don't see it anywhere.
I wish we had a copy of the original that we stripped everything from.
Yeah. I probably still got it in the system if you want to look it up.
Actually, I think we're missing a page.
No, I've got down to 2 pages. That's how short it ended up.
No, I think we were still on 3.
Yeah. I know we were down to a page and a half. Yeah, I don't see it, so. I don't know.
I took that
Looks
straight
for
from
it.
the server, Rebecca.
Oh, well, no, that's because that was our final.
Right.
So, again,
I didn't work on it here, so, by the time it got put on the server, that was our final, not the original.
so, again, did we get any of the in-car computers refreshed this year? Did the county refresh them like they were supposed to?
Just, he already said take them off. It's a discussion council has to have now. So,
To me, it goes with the cost of equipping a car. So if you're going to take the car off of it, then you might as well take the
Okay,
the
let's
computer.
strip it out. The in-car cameras, did they purchase any?
Yes, I believe they have 4 in operation. 4 at least 4.
Strip it. And you
well,
wanna-
here's the thing. Have you had any conversations with Steve or, about what the PD needs?
Yeah, these are some of these requests are mixed in with what's coming in from the budget. But
Now,
you can't
now
fund all
I
this at
have to
once.
ask a question. Request from who?
Current setup, along with what we've known from other working with.
Okay, add 2 things that I need to talk to you about. Okay.
Security camera you want to leave in, variable message board you want to leave in, scene and event lights you want to leave in. I got no
Trailer
problem.
can be in there. I'm just figuring out the years to do them on.
Okay. Audio-visual enhancement, what is that?
That is any of the things dealing with the council chambers. One of the things that you consistently we have coming up is that the stuff does go out of date. Actually, we're looking at to do a significant upgrade in the coming year. But
I don't have a
I
problem
don't have a
with that.
problem with it. Crosswalk and sidewalk repair.
I do have to mention the one huge thing that's missing, and I hope that at some point it gets done or started within the next 5 years. You don't have the final phase of streetscape on here.
okay.
Yeah, that needs,
That's what I was
that definitely needs to be on.
Yeah.
No, that's fine. That would go to community development anyway. Or no.
Now, wouldn't that go down here with the
you're
crosswalk
right.
and
I'm sorry.
beautification
Yes.
and,
Yes.
so, yeah. Because
It's just a draft.
Okay. Crosswalk and sidewalk repair, what are we talking? Fayette, Jefferson? Where are we planning?
it was, we didn't do any of it this year.
I know we didn't,
It
but
was
where are we planning?
to convert the remaining brick crosswalks to stamped asphalt.
Oh, okay.
So,
I forgot about that.
I'm
You're right.
assuming
I'm
we're
sorry.
still working off what we didn't get done last year, correct?
Okay.
The only
My
really
bad.
section you would have was everything that we.
My bad. Washington Street beautification.
Wait a minute, is there a reason we don't have any, the crosswalk and sidewalk repair, I see the totals down to 54,000, not 72, that our estimates were last year. And why are we not starting that, why aren't we trying to get any of that done in 14-15?
We, let's see. Okay. Well, it's just, it was one of those things with it being in this year's, I guess, I must have, it wasn't on purpose. We should just slide
Yeah,
that.
well, actually, if we just put 18 there, that brings the total up to 72
That's
down on
correct.
the end, so.
That's correct.
Next line down, Washington Street beautification, painting of light posts. That screens maintenance cost to me. Anybody else?
Well, I think if it's tied in with taking care of the other ones, we left it on last year.
Any of that?
Yeah. We just didn't get it done.
Okay.
We've just had one thing after another.
Installation of the missing light posts. Isn't that the problem with the property owner still? Or are we just giving up on that?
I have a, you're in front of the Bloom Building.
Those were ours anyway. That's why we had them on. Install 2 poles missing on Washington Street in front of the Bloom Building.
There's still a bond on the books for that.
Yeah.
Mr. Shadiak, who's a new building owner, because there's been he's been reluctant to execute that bond. It's held by somebody else other than him.
But ultimately, the fiscal responsibility for those 2 light poles is not the town?
I thought the whole reason we had it on here last year, because, again, we had it
Well, it's
on here
because,
last year.
because the property owner was in bankruptcy. That is no longer the case.
Well, he now wants to do a stairwell from the sidewalk up to his and do some other
Which
beautification.
will require a site plan amendment, which will require him comporting with the requirements of the streetscape, so why is this $14,000 in there? Because that's going to fall on him, right?
No, then
That's where I was going with it, yes.
Yeah, okay, strike it. Benches, pads, trash cans, and banner replacements.
I'd like to see if we can try to move that up.
I was going to say $20 general fund, but if you want, that's fine.
No, it's, we have streetscape done on this end of town, we have for eons, and we have, there's an entire plan somewhere of benches and other, the bike racks, and I think we should go ahead and start trying to put those in.
Well, by then we'll have the eastern side done, so we probably want to match it.
Street striping of what?
This is actually a proposed project. So to kind of aim at doing finished, complete streets. It's a good way to do calming and stuff. It's a cheap and inexpensive project for most towns.
So you want to do street striping to create the illusion of a narrowing lane, that sort of thing?
Essentially. But it's one of those things, a lot of times that's not something that VDOT's going to go, so it's you all putting money back into your community.
I see nothing wrong with it.
I don't either, but from a practical standpoint, I'm just, I'm not going to argue.
Where
It's-
did
it's
the
slated
numbers
to
come
go-
from? Because the numbers seem really low for that, because
You would start off
I know just
small.
our neighborhood,
Yeah.
just parking lot striping was,
Right, which is actually a lot more detailed than doing edge lines and everything. You have all the center lines. Really, what you would do is it'd start off in a small concept. In other words, you take what's one of our next main streets, start there and stuff. Just it would go incremental. It's not something you're going to do all of it all at once. You're going to do it a little bit at a time.
Municipal parking lot, unless somebody's going to die and deed us some property, $40,000 ain't going to cut it.
Just basically thrown in as a starting point. You'd have to plan it. It'd be cost to do.
at this
I got
point in
this, I
time,
got this.
I would have to say, where we need municipal parking, and not necessarily lot, but we need municipal parking, we're still trying to have the parking study done.
Parking study, the bids are supposed to come, or the proposals are supposed to come back this month. So,
I think we may be jumping the gun a little bit with
Yeah.
putting that in,
So just drop it to municipal parking plan,
well,
because we're doing that.
yeah, I would do municipal parking plan, and then maybe you can do another one with construction and put it down further, but I'd go with a much higher number than 40,000.
Yeah, that's sticking out to 2018 at this point in time.
Yeah.
Shared use pass, that's Connolly's money, right? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Now,
Jefferson Street sidewalk.
Hold on.
That's still okay. I'll hold it.
Marcia, you, me, and Holly sat down and listened to presentations from all these people.
we did.
What's our next step, especially with the Connolly money? Because I see that's in 15-16. Don't we need to do that sooner?
Holly did get in contact with RDA, who we awarded
Yes.
the contract to, and she's asked for some paperwork
Okay.
to get that started.
I basically put it there knowing that they're just starting to enter design. So you really
Well, I know we
you
were
could
trying
split
to
it out,
trying
really.
to tie in with the widening of
66.
66 and the bridge work. Well,
Which won't be completed until 16. Well, no, it should be completed this, no.
Should be breaking ground next spring.
yeah.
I thought it was this summer. They were
This
breaking
spring.
ground.
I'm sorry.
Wide.
This spring.
I'm thinking last year, this spring, yeah.
So you would want to budget this for the 14-15 budget, right?
I would
I
think
think
so.
you should probably split it. By the time you actually get to the actual construction, you're probably
250 and 250,
Yeah, I'd
that's
do
fine.
250,
Yeah, I'd move that out.
But, I mean, we wanted to make sure we were tying in with the construction, so. Because people are going to be cranky enough with all the road work going on. We don't want stuff getting finished and then closing down roads again.
Jefferson Street sidewalk, which one is that?
That is actually just more of a proposed project to get you started in terms of finishing out the sidewalks where we currently don't have it. There's portions of Jefferson Street that does not have sidewalks. Where you get down to the residential part, you do have the sidewalks, but everything from residential up to the light, you don't have sidewalks.
That's Crawford as part of a site plan.
Yeah, they're going to have to take care of that with their site plan, and then the shared use path here on this side to
Take care of the
cover
other
it.
side.
So,
Done. Strike it.
because it is proper? Or?
It is.
Well, Proverbs, it's
It's a site plan requirement,
Okay.
and they've got an approved site plan.
Gotcha.
And if they amend it, yes, they still have an approved site plan as much as I would want to have burned it 5 years ago.
We did figure that out?
Huh?
It's official? That it's approved and vested?
Let's not have that discussion.
Okay.
What is the...
Let's put it this way. When the property is developed, the sidewalk will appear.
Yes, there you go. Sorry.
What is the $5,000 across the board for town equipment?
Well, it's one of those things, if you're going to follow suit, I would actually recommend you take it out. It's basically to continue to create a line item that basically funds the additional needs for technology. Does that mean you spend it within a year? No, you don't have to, but it's there. And, as
My biggest problem with the school board budget are lines that are listed as miscellaneous or think general.
Well, wait a minute. I think I know where he's going with this one. This is like if the server went down,
Exactly.
doing an estimated cost for it.
Then you put a reserve in your budget.
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah,
That's not a capital improvement. That's an ongoing. You should have an equipment reserve of some sort in the budget.
Well,
Then again, I've been saying that for years, but nobody
But then
wants to
that-
listen to me. But
one of the things
But
I
then
would
that looks
suggest,
like
though,
miscellaneous on a budget to some people, and
that's why you
that
put the word
disappears.
reserve with it.
Reserve is not a slush fund.
There's a purpose
How are you
behind it,
supposed to
and you
use
roll
it?
it over from year to year if you don't use it.
Yeah.
you use them as a sinking fund. I mean, that's essentially what you're doing. The other thing, what I was going to say, though, is like in putting together a narrative, if you want to continue this direction, what you really, really should do is you should have, as part of the narrative, define what are you defining as a capital improvement. What I'm saying is it gives you a better indication.
Well, see, that's a problem that we've had in past years with past planning commissions, town manager, and past councils, is everyone looks at capital improvement as a different definition. We ran into this problem last year. And the definition that our former town manager was working on was anything $5,000 or better is a capital improvement. And everyone else said, yeah, no.
What you consider?
Bob,
What?
I'm just saying.
what would a capital improvement be?
Capital improvement. Generally speaking, a large expenditure on a lasting improvement or addition. Yeah, maintenance is not a capital improvement. Complete renovation is a capital improvement. Building addition is a capital improvement. New building is a capital improvement. Maintenance is maintenance.
And that says like operating costs.
Yeah, it's part of your operational budget. And, and I have a bright line distinction between the two and between budget and CIP. And I don't like putting things like that in CIP because it takes the onus off of putting it and properly budgeting for it in the actual budget and the operational fund where it should be. It lends to the opportunity to overfund other items and then have, as in this building, operational maintenance expenses not get done year to year to year to year, like door closers, fire alarms, smoke detectors, and air conditioning equipment. So if it's in the budget and the contracts are let based on the actual budget appropriation and allocation, it tends to get done.
Do you think there's a magic number that you're talking about?
There is no magic number.
No.
It's a function of what the project is.
Right.
There are projects that are maintenance. There are projects that are CIP items. there are, the stuff that goes in your budget is your necessities. You have to fix the plumbing. You have to fix the air conditioning, and you plan accordingly for it. And that goes into your operational budget. And you should have some sense of what those items are going to cost you. You should know what you're going to have to replace on a given schedule. You should have a refresh schedule for each building. The CIP, like I say, is for your larger scale things where you're going to, if you want to gut this building and completely redo it, that would be a CIP item. If you want to, build an addition on the food pantry building, that would be a CIP item that you would plan and budget accordingly for, whether you're drawing your funds from the general funds in the out years, or whether you're going to do it through coffers, grants, or some other method. But that's not, just the general maintenance or, we need to install new installation because it's not there. I don't consider the installation of installation a CIP issue. That's an ongoing maintenance issue that, same thing with the in-car cameras, quite frankly. That's an equipment issue, and it's not properly budgeted. That's for the chief to take up for the town. But, I see it. Capital improvement is just that. It's capital improvement. Buying your everyday supplies or keeping the bells and whistles going. That's not capital improvement. That's just operations.
And that's fine. My whole point is the way that this all works is it's a recommendation. And so what I want to do is I want to make sure we're conveying that this is how the recommendation is.
I'd like everything that we take out of the CIP, or we've asked to be taken out of the CIP, be presented as budget items because that's where they belong.
Yeah.
And they need to be budget recommendations.
And a good part of them actually are. It's just one of those things is where I was feeling like if you're making the improvements on the facilities. But I do understand what you're saying. I think it's important to understand. This is kind of like more my way of working. My goal is to work with you all. And if your all's recommendation is, let's look at this from a large-scale improvement kind of thing, as opposed to just making an improvement onto an existing facility.
Yeah.
Some of this is maintenance. Some of it is an improvement, but for the most part, it's maintenance. Let's take it out. I think the biggest thing is just making sure we're not, cutting off our nose to spite our face, just so that if you have something that can get funded in a different way that doesn't always rely on us, but if there's bigger projects that we need to make more of a priority, that's the most important.
I really don't like that line of thinking. I mean, the ongoing maintenance expenses are just that, ongoing maintenance expenses. And to try and find, it's okay to try and find some other way of funding it. And if grants pop up, if proffers pop up, that's fine. And you transfer the funds into your general, you transfer the funds at the time you get them, you allocate them, you appropriate them, and then you free up that much more budget in your that much more room in your operating budget for that year. That's fine. But I don't like relying on non-standard revenue to fund operational expenses. You either have the money from your general revenue stream or you don't. And, it forces you to make the hard decisions. You have to budget for these things. You have to make sure you have enough toilet paper in the building, so you better have enough money in your budget to do it. And I don't want somebody to go out and look for a toilet paper grant because nobody budgeted enough. That's something that they should be dealing with at the budgetary level when you're formulating the budget, and all of that needs to be considered before they start throwing other things in there that are of less importance to the day-to-day operations of the town. Necessities versus niceties. And it forces you to craft your budget from a standpoint of taking care of what you have to take care of first and using any excess, if any's left, to do your wish list. I don't like putting the wish list before your necessities list.
Well, and that's how we usually come up with our CIP. It's, the museum, town staff, the police department, and then our other things, our streetscape and all of that, and we get their wish list items. Then we whittle through that wish list on what needs to be budgeted and what needs to go into a capital improvement. Just like I was a little surprised with the museum, the only thing we have is, the caboose, which is it's a separate entity. And then landscaping improvements. I mean, I've heard Denise talking about other things she, had needed.
Oh, and they're already factored into.
They are into her budget.
So even some of this, that's what I'm trying to say. Is saying, having never worked with you all through this process, that's what I'm trying to say. It's like I had to send out kind of a feeler. I based most of these projects off what I found in the existing CIP. That includes the last one, the one previous you had done, the 2008, 2009 through 2013, 2014. So and I think Gene was looking at that. But what I was trying to do is basically some of those things that were mentioned, and even in here, they were funded in the budget in general, already in the proposed budget.
I just realized something when you said that about the museum. Marshall, how far out are they from presenting a plan for Peyton Lane?
You should have a preliminary plan by summer.
I'd suggest pushing that town museum landscape improvements back 2 years. Why do it? It's going to get all torn up when they do the Payne Lane project, and a lot of that might actually be done as part of the Payne Lane project.
I could see breaking it down into, well, it's saying landscaping improvements, to where, that could be stuff in front, stuff on our parking lot side, not necessarily behind the caboose or behind it, or I
think it was more for the front.
Yeah.
The front of the building.
I would just keep it in mind that
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of earth moving over there.
Just as a point of reference, I didn't quite catch. Do we decide to take out the town equipment?
Yes.
line item?
All right. I'm losing things left and right.
that's because we have everything spelled out.
Disorganized without my reading glasses. So does that cover the CIP?
Yes.
Everybody happy?
What I'll do is I will make these changes and then get you all a draft. And I also will try to get a brief narrative as they go.
I take it you're going to take lead on this?
Yeah, I'll work with Brian.
Cool. Because I have other things to pay attention to. What part of the evening? Which one do you want to take first?
We'll get the Tom Marshall comments. So this is a project I've been talking to you guys about for
Is that the one I already have out in front of you?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
So obviously it's on the county side, it's planned commercial employment center, which has, planned land use designation has a ratio of residential to commercial. Residential is to be complementary, not primary use within the development. Mr. Wilburn, who's a former supervisor, I guess is working with the property owners to try to assemble basically everything from Tyler to the town boundary, the Gossam family. I guess there's some stuff that's the estate's still in flux. So they were not able to assemble all the properties. So they've come back with a heavily residential dominant project. Property along Washington Street would remain commercial. They've not identified what it is. They've simply identified land banks. It would be a combination of drive-through restaurants, banks, or office. Closest to us would be several multifamily buildings, almost 200 multifamily units.
Or double-stacked townhouses is the new proposal.
And then on the
It's still an
east,
apartment. They can call it whatever they want to.
and on the east side of the project, on the other side of the commercial center where the karate studio is, would be townhouses. And then at the entrance, basically across from the post office, you'll see on that plan a traffic circle, which is transitioning from 4 lanes coming westbound on 55 into the 2 lanes that would bring them into the town.
Before we get into this,
So
when are you going to send your comments letter?
I'll wait for your comments and then I can send them in.
Well, hey,
Notepad handy?
hey, rumor has it we're already in support of it. So,
So,
Let's start with the overarching issues then.
well, I can start with the things that I observed real quick. Absent the land use conflict, which I talked to the county's project manager, and he's continued to note that this is well outside what we envisioned for that property. I think if the plan was to go through, some things I would raise to the staff would be massing, size and massing. You're having a 4-story building right next to Pace West, and I know Pace West wants to look at doing the 2nd and 3rd story, but nonetheless, you got a huge building next to a small one. Pedestrian connectivity.
Hold on, before you go any further, that also conflicts with the existing structures in the shopping area. They will be considerably higher.
Yeah, the ones that are on the front. My big issue that I would push would be pedestrian. If they're going to have this kind of density, there's got to be a safe way to get into the town other than by car. So that would likely require additional monies from the town to have to bring our streetscape across Pace West.
One of the other issues, I think, did you read all of the county crap on this?
I read through the county comments, and the other thing I think the overarching issue too is police.
Yeah.
That reciprocal, is it called reciprocal agreement that we have?
Yeah, it's mutual aid.
Mutual aid agreement. So what does that do in terms of resources?
Let's stay with the pedestrian access in the air. Let's stay with that because there is an issue. It's actually in the comments back and forth, and apparently the commercial property owner that bisects those properties is not particularly inclined to grant them interparcel access, which is what breeds the traffic circle.
Okay.
So you're going to have an issue with pedestrian and vehicular traffic between the two because of the unlikely prospect of an interparcel connector across that commercial property.
Now they're showing one into Pace West, and they simply reserve it. They wouldn't have to connect it. But you're talking about the ones with the existing traffic.
The existing, where U.S. Tigers is, those guys refuse to provide, or at least to this point have refused to provide interparcel access. And they didn't have to proffer it when they put their stuff in.
Now,
so
this
there's no
is the
position for
urgent
it.
care, U.S. Tigers,
Yeah.
and, okay.
And these two, they're not inclined to grant. And they're under no requirement to do it either, right? I wouldn't think.
And now, well, Mr. Wilburn is claiming that they have the easements, the reciprocal easements there to allow back and forth.
That's not what the staff report says.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not going into detail on that.
Continue. Police department?
No, just the mutual aid agreements. What does that mean in terms of the town's resources to support it, along with the pedestrian connections that are there? The screening to Pace West. That's something I talked to Sean Landry about. He's not particularly pleased with the scheme they're coming up with in terms of separating the two uses. One could look at this at a lesser residential density. It does create some critical mass for us to support our businesses in town. There's some other thoughts too. Sorry, it skipped my mind right now. So one could think that you take more inventory out of the mix. It emphasizes or makes our areas more attractive. The traffic circle, as a planner, they're demonstrated to work. I travel Gilbert's Corner every day. They had to do some adjustments to that based on people getting in accidents in the traffic circle. But in terms of volume, people not knowing how to navigate a traffic circle, so it went from a dual lane to a single lane. But based on my experience of using that every day, the efficiency of it is
You speed up to make sure you're the one in the circle, so people have to yield to you.
Exactly. So I think to me it would be an interesting transition. I mean, on the west side of town we have this huge intersection. On the east side of town we have a traffic circle. There is some education involved, but I think at lower speeds, based on my experience, I think it would.
I see multiple issues of road rage there on a daily basis.
Most people get used to it. With anything, I think people are getting used to it. The first Gilbert's Corner, people would stop and wave people through the traffic circle, and that's where you get all the honking horns and upset. And then you tell them who the tourists are, because once they get it, they keep going around and they slow down and speed up.
Big Ben, Parliament.
But I think the major issues with it would be somewhat the traffic generation. Again, it's well beyond what's envisioned for the property. It's a lot of density in a small amount of place. They are offering a community center for the multifamily thing. It's a little clubhouse facility. All they're offering is townhouses and Pine Park. So we're already at deficit in terms of parks and pools and other things that we need. So this would be another community that's heavily dependent upon the county to provide public services. So.
And you're going to incorporate all of that into your comments, correct? Mm-hmm. Okay. Ready for my shots?
Yep, go for it.
First off, it doesn't comport with the comp plan, and I don't see an accompanying comp plan amendment.
Okay.
There's no way this can fly without a comp plan amendment. It's designated CEC in the long-range land use plan, and this does not come close. CEC, they got to be what? Maximum 25% residential by floor space?
I think so.
And this is going to be roughly 75?
Yeah.
The massing doesn't work in CEC for what they're doing. Their gross density way above 6 to 12. I mean, how many acres are they planning here for the residential?
You have to look at the tab there. I can't remember what's on it.
But he doesn't have it on here.
Should be on the site plan.
2.57 units per acre. 209. Yeah, but he's combining this with the commercial,
Oh, he's trying to do it overall.
That's what.
and he's got to strip out the ER too. So I'm not buying that. So that's the ER. Does he have an ER development or ER?
I don't see any. There was a report with
Single-family
it.
attachment including is permitted at a density of 12 units per gross acre. But that's gross acre of the developed area, correct? Not of the
Well,
entire
CEC,
project?
well, the CEC is supposed to spread across the, oh, I see what you're saying, it's across the project area, across the plan area.
Yeah. Do they have any ER on here? I don't know. Doesn't look like it, but I would suspect they do somewhere.
Well, I think-
There's a pond.
No, that's just
Yeah.
tree cover.
So he's got to factor his ER into that
And I
factor.
got to talk to the project manager. I thought at one point he said something about that they were applying the policies over everything north of 55, including the Gothams.
They don't own those properties.
I know Wilburn was trying to argue that the future, that the policy should be applied across it, and that the future
No.
Gotham properties, where they'd ever be brought into the fold, they would have to provide all the commercial, wouldn't be allowed to provide any
Well,
residential.
then I want to rezone my house, my property to CEC and make a provision for that because I'm going to buy this property here and you can tie that back to that property line. That gross square footage yet too. No.
Well, I don't agree with it, but that's
I think
that's the mentality.
I'm going to have a talk with the Gainesville Planning Commissioner because I know that the Gainesville supervisor has been sort of left out of the loop on this, and I think I'm going to have another talk with him. Yeah, the massing just doesn't work. I think from a long range perspective, I think the other thing we have to hammer home is we don't need the residential, we need the CEC, we need the commercial sector, we need the office space because that will provide the business day support that the businesses in the town dramatically need, that they need far in excess of any other residential support. They need the lunch crowd. You know, you can't make a restaurant survive without the lunch crowd. We don't have a lunch crowd here. In fact, the whole Gainesville area doesn't have one, so it's not just Haymarket. It's the Gainesville region in its totality. So, I mean, this just doesn't fly with that. I mean, that's why it was converted to CEC when they did the long-range land use map change a couple of years ago from residential to CEC. It's currently what, A1, I think, A1 and M1.
To mix of A1 and the commercial district.
Yeah, I think it's actually industrial part of it.
Yeah, it's a hodgepodge.
Yeah, I'd like somebody to break down the area. Why don't you get it broken down here? Is he factoring these in? GPM 5.24. No. So it's 27.7 acres there.
We're talking with the project manager. Schools indicated there's going to be a capacity problem.
The schools are not in favor of this. I spoke to two of the school board reps about this last night, and they are, let's just say, putting it kindly, they are not in favor of it, and the language of future school board letters to the developers will be changed.
Yeah, this was the staff, but staff didn't weigh in. Other than saying the capacity was going to be a problem, they didn't weigh
Well,
in.
the staff letter is somewhat misleading. The staff letter says, I've got it here somewhere. Oh, I did. And I guess you could interpret it any way you want, but that's correct. There's something I managed to lose.
I'll take my originals.
The language I suspect they're relying on is from school staff comment, The school division is not in support of any rezoning that increases student capacity in schools already at or in excess of 100% capacity, or rezoning that causes student capacity at any school to exceed 100% capacity. And then the line that these school board representatives were unfamiliar with, unless proffer sufficient to mitigate the impact to the school division are received. So, the question is, what are proffers sufficient to mitigate? Is that the proffer that's in the proffer schedule of the county, or is that a proffer that actually mitigates
The impact?
the impact?
Yeah, it's not 100%. I don't think the county pays it 100%.
They don't.
Less than that.
Yeah, so I have a suspicion that if they come forward and assert that the school board is in favor of that, I would suspect the school board would take great umbrage with that. But we shall see. Screening between them and Pace West raises another issue. When we did the boundary adjustment for Pace West, did or did not the county put a restriction or ask for a restriction on the usage of that property to prevent residential construction there? Was that not part of the discussion?
I'm sorry, say that.
When the
On
Pace,
pace, yes.
on Pace.
Yeah, the reason why when they sold it, they gave it to QBE under the auspices that was the only plan that was proposed in commercial. The rest was proposed.
And as part of the boundary adjustment,
And went in with our rezoning.
It would be consistent with what's planned on the east side.
and they didn't want any residential housing there because of the impact on the schools, blah, blah, blah. So how can the county be in favor of taking the neighboring property and doing exactly what they wouldn't do with Pace?
Okay, so point out the PLA,
Correct.
the transaction.
The transaction for the boundary adjustment and the language that the county required, and I think that's actually in writing, if I'm not mistaken.
No, you haven't mixed any of Marshall's things in yours, have you?
It's possible.
Man.
No, it's got blue tabs on mine. Actually, I did tab something on this. This was on the, oh yeah, one of the things that I find kind of curious, on page 4, this is in that packet the county gave you, on page 4 of the January 29 comments from staff, staff had brought up comment number 8, the 2023 design year traffic conditions, blah, 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 are considerably higher than the 2023 build-out plus 6 in the roundabout traffic study. So the county is suggesting that their traffic figures or their traffic projections are considerably higher than those of the applicant and the applicant's transportation engineers. And one of the things that the traffic engineers have stated in their response, and I quote, considering that Route 55 has had negative growth between 2004 and 2012, the proposed traffic volume adjustments were appropriate in the revised design concept.
This is their engineers?
This is their engineer, and I'd like to know what planet he lives on. In fact, I'd like somebody to contact their transportation engineer and get the... I'd love to see the analysis on that. Because...
Walmart, hospital,
hospital,
sheets rebuilding,
condos,
ice rink.
New Pace West, ice rink, development on Old Carolina, development of Old Carolina. Yeah, I'm not buying that.
Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A. So, I mean, the premise behind their traffic calming circle seems flawed from the outset if they're predicting lower traffic and have seen some mysterious diminishment of traffic on 55. Because I can.
Well, apparently we're still farmland, so everything's okay.
When I bought my house here, there was no stoplight. Traffic didn't back up into town, and it now backs up from the stoplight to the proposed side of the traffic circle on some mornings, and generally well past St. Paul every morning. So I'd like to know, what time did they do their traffic studies? 2, 3 a.m.? Yeah.
Holly, we have a copy of the traffic study here. Holly's going to look at the assumptions and make sure they were...
I'd like to see what her comments on that one were. And the other one was there was a meeting, apparently, on which we had been invited, on
was?
January 10th.
We were invited?
We were not invited,
Oh, we're not invited.
but it was at the county offices between Mr. Wilborn, Doug Kennedy with traffic, I don't know who that is, I guess their civil engineer, Rick Canizales, what a shock, Yao Lu from VDOT, George Phillips from Prince William County, Elizabeth Scullen, whom I don't know, from Prince William County, and Derek D. Donato, why does that name ring a bell? Who is apparently the purchaser. And one of the agenda topics was item 2, VDOT generally supports the roundabout as an alternative to widening with a signal and needs responses to referral and consensus from county. Are we suddenly not going to widen 55? Are we changing? I mean, I think somebody needs to contact VDOT and find out what this January 10th statement means and if there's any validity to it. Because if they're not going to widen 55, we got bigger problems.
Well, is someone widening it at the light from beyond what's already planned? I'd have to look at the...
This would be at Gillis Drive or Gillis Way. So the question is, are they not going to widen to 4 lanes?
The only thing I can assume is that they're looking at the existing condition, which is 2 lanes. It's planned 4 lanes with a median divide. Not that they're saying they're having to widen to get the intersection in. I don't know that the intersection's planned there right now. I don't think a light's planned at that intersection.
There is no light plan
So
at that
I think
intersection.
just as a natural, you're having to do a full movement intersection, you're going to have to increase the width of it.
Yeah, well, the other thing is it's going to require right-of-way acquisition for that existing commercial pad site that's currently under construction.
And that's kind of where I was going with it. Is that
Yeah, and none of the property owners have been notified to my knowledge.
yeah.
It would also impact the parking lot for the post office.
And that may be the reason why they're doing the traffic circles. That maybe they can do that with an existing right-of-way.
No, they actually state that they can't. It will
They can't?
require, they're notifying the county that it's going to require off-site right-of-way acquisition across the street.
In the post office.
Yeah, post office and the pad site both. And then there's a second item here, which I'm sure is Mr. Canizales' assertion, or at least what Mr. Wilborn is reporting it is. County transportation staff generally supports the roundabout and has no review objections with the concept in the December 2013 submission, which they talked to us.
Well, I mentioned that to the project manager, that the amount of level of discussion they apparently has gone into this, it would have been nice to have had us involved.
It's also interesting that they then note, after generally supporting the roundabout, they then note that they have not yet reviewed the revised TIA or reviewed the roundabout study. So, what value is that recommendation?
Where did that come from?
It's the meeting minutes of the January 10 meeting. There's all kinds of interesting stuff in here. Those are just the highlights. So, yeah, I'm not real happy about this, especially since it just sort of emerged after 2 years of dormancy.
Yeah, it was last summer or last spring when we got the last version of it, so it seemed to change quite significantly.
As I said, most people thought this had gone away, and it sort of has taken some people by surprise. And I've been apprised that the applicant is asserting that they have a hearing scheduled for the Planning Commission, County Planning Commission in March.
Well, I can tell them we haven't gotten our notice, so they haven't done it.
Well, no, I mean, it's not on the DAP schedule either, and it doesn't even have a meeting scheduled on the DAP schedule, which runs, 6 months? So, I'd like to get the real story as to what's going on here, what the schedule is, so that we can act appropriately. And I don't like flying blind. So, if you wish, I mean, you can either talk to Donahoe, or if you'd like, I can actually liaise through Chris Price.
Okay, I'll give... Donahue's pretty good about calling me back, so...
But if you need to run it up the hill a little further, I can give Chris Price a call.
Sounds good. So I've written down your comments. What I'll do is I'll draft them, I'll send them out for your review, and then we'll get them up.
Can we make it an agenda item for next month so the council can sign off on them in April?
Okay.
No, May. Because I want to make sure that these get out.
Midwood?
Midwood, if there's no objection, I'd like to table this discussion for a month, because I have actually,
This was the active adult community across from Walmart.
Now, is this for our discussion for our comments?
for our comments.
When, do they have a hearing scheduled?
No.
Then I think we can table it, can't we?
I don't think they have a schedule. Bear with me a second.
This is like the first submission. I don't think they're anywhere close to.
Is it, well, no,
They got the CPAM done. They got the plan amendment done.
it hasn't been accepted yet, has it?
The plan amendment was approved.
The comp plan amendment was?
Yeah,
I thought it was conjunctive with the rezoning application.
I'm sorry.
It was initiated.
They voted to initiate, yes.
They voted to initiate
But they would have to process it concurrently, you're right? So,
PWC, God bless it, I'm sorry, guys.
I'm thinking loud and not.
CGOV.
Is it?
If you bear with me a second, this won't take a minute.
Oh, it's still his back.
Come on. Planning. Come on. Yeah, if we've got enough time, circumstances have changed a little bit. I'd like to just put it off if possible. Oh, come on, where's the damn schedule? They changed their homepage.
The mayor and I did have a meeting with Mr. Wilburn to talk about this. So,
You have one scheduled, or you've already had one?
I had one. It was just to brief us on the project. I think he's showing, Mr. Wilburn is going to show up at the council meeting tomorrow night to address the council during public comment.
Yeah, Midwood has no hearing date scheduled, so if there's no objection, I'd like to defer this one until next month.
Okay.
Because there's going to be there may be no reason to do this. Let's see.
Anything pertinent from that meeting we should be briefed on?
No, just other than, he was very positive in terms of he felt he had support from the county for it. He went through some of the elements. Our big question was, how did you get from A to B? Last time we saw this, it was different density. There wasn't a traffic circle. So that's when he just went into the background, kind of what the notes that you just mentioned, how they got there. We didn't offer a recommendation or way other than just right off the bat. I talked about absent the land use, again, the connectivity, the police protection, kind of the things that kind of jump out at you. So I know he did meet with Pete Canland and the district commissioner last week.
Last Tuesday.
But I don't know what the result of that meeting was.
I'll talk to you offline about that.
Okay.
Anything else?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We're out of here. Yeah, I talked to,
Hold on, let's move it over.
Just turn the mic off.